Yeah, I remember that.
Chrome and silver helmets. But no, Kentucky, I just they could have good uniforms, and I feel like every week they rock like some combination that I'm like, they just look stupid. But if they rock just some basic blue and white, I feel like they'd look better than they did. They're trying too hard with the uniforms. That's what it is.
Yeah, they haven't announced it. They're not leaning into it like Tennessee does. So I don't know what they're wearing this week. Matt Green, where are we going next?
All right, let's keep it moving. We are going to Ohio State and Penn State. The Buckeyes are a 16.5 point favorite on the road. And I have a question for you. Has anyone milked one good season more than 2016 Penn State and James Franklin? That is the only time that they ever made the Big Ten championship. It's the only time they've beaten Ohio State in the last decade. It's like they play Ohio State tough. So it's like this App State reputation. App State made me eat my words because they pulled off another upset this year. But it's like there's this reputation like, oh, Ohio State goes into Happy Valley. It's dangerous. It's like they've lost one time. Like it's kind of crazy to me how this reputation has kind of developed. But with that said, all of the games have typically been close in this rivalry. So the last four since James Franklin got there at Penn State, Ohio State is 3-1, but it's by an average margin of 4.5 points a game. So like I think you got to go back to like 2015 or 2014 or one of those two for a spread or a margin as big as 16.5 in this game period. So there is something about Penn State that I feel like they're going to play Ohio State close, especially if Ohio State plays the way they did against Iowa in the first half last week. Like Iowa was playing they might have been playing against like 20 players. Honestly, they were playing against themselves and Ohio State in the first half of that game. Like they turned the ball over 3 times, and Ohio State only managed like 19 points, I think, because they had the pick 6 to make it 26. But the offense only scored 19 points, being gifted like 30, 40-yard fields for most of the first half. CJ Stroud looked a little off, like just uncharacteristically missing kind of open throws and things like that. That said, they still scored 50 against Iowa. So obviously, I feel like they kind of ran it up in the fourth quarter, but that's another conversation. But if they don't just like come out crisp and just making plays like they did last week against Iowa, like Penn State will hang around and like they'll make this a 4-quarter game. With that said, I think Ohio State will win this game, but I don't see them winning it by 16.5. So give me Penn State against the spread, but Ohio State to win it.
It's interesting. You just don't like James Franklin. James Franklin, though, he's won 11 games 3 times since he's been there. Still a chance to do that this year. They're 6-1. Still a path to them getting there. I think when you go back, I mean, Joe Pa won 11 games 3 times in about 20 years.
But it's different back then. They're playing like 11-game seasons lots of times, right?
I'm saying he went his last year or his second to last year. He went hold on, that's weird. Okay, so 2009 he went 11-2. 2008 he went 11-2. I mean, James Franklin's gotten this team up to number 2 in the AP poll in 2017. I don't know. I think 9-4 the following year, 11-2, 11-2 in 2019. 2020, everything that just throw 2020 out the building. And then last year they were injury prone. I don't know. I'm not a James Franklin hater. I think he's one of the best 7 coaches in college football. I think he's in that group.
I'll give him 5-4 in 2020 because this day, Indiana did not beat them. Michael Penix Jr. was short of the goal line. Mm-hmm. So I'll give him a 5th win. But I mean, you're talking about a 4-5 though, honestly. In 2020, it was obviously COVID, and then a 7-6. Like they've bounced back this year and they're 6-1 right now. But they still got to play Ohio State. Like
I don't know. I think you're a little too hard on Penn State. Like, what do you want them to be?
I don't know. It's
They're one of
funny
the
how
10
this.
best programs in college
I feel
football.
like
What do you
they
want them
have
to
this
be?
reputation of like what Happy Valley is, because it's like it's a cool atmosphere, but it doesn't seem like they necessarily just take care of business at home. Like,
Mm.
so I don't know. I'm not hating on Penn State, but
They haven't won a national title since '86, man. Like, they've only won 4 conference championships. Like, I don't know. I mean, I just think they're fine. They're a solid A- program.
they were still a powerhouse up until like the mid to late 90s. Even if they didn't win like a championship, like they were still like finishing top 5 and top 10 and stuff. I think a lot of people said Paterno didn't run the score up on people lots of times, and that kind of cost them some style points over the
Yeah.
years, and like not getting ranked number 1 at the end of seasons when it was when people just voted on who the champion was and we didn't actually play each other. Yeah, so Penn State can still be a powerhouse. Like Franklin is a good coach, but I just found that interesting. Like looking at this rivalry head to head, it's like, wow. So Ohio State really, like, it feels like it's a good game every year. So I guess that's
Mm.
why it doesn't necessarily feel like such domination, but Ohio State has definitely dominated this rivalry.
Penn State has this is coming from SI. I thought was interesting. Penn State has outscored teams 42-15 in the first quarter of matchups this season. Ohio State has outscored teams 114 to 34 in the first quarter. So both teams get off to hot starts traditionally. So I'm curious to see how that goes this week, because obviously both teams cannot do that here in Happy Valley. But I do think it's something to monitor. And then the average margin of victory. You talk about the history where Penn State hasn't won, but they've all been close. Like, they're all super close. The average margin of victory has been 6.3 points per game
Yeah.
in the last 6 meetings between these two schools. I think it ultimately comes down to one thing. Like, this is how we'll know who wins this football game. If Sean Clifford has a running touchdown, a passing touchdown, and plays 4 quarters and is the better quarterback on Saturday and outplays CJ Stroud, who had a rough game last week, I think Penn State wins. But if Sean Clifford has the nightmare game and Sean Clifford
Oh
throws a
man,
couple picks,
I thought you were gonna hit me with some stat that they're like 12-0 when he has a rushing touchdown, a
they've only
passing
lost one
touchdown, and
game.
plays 4 quarters.
I think they've only lost one game when he has a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. I think they're like 6-1 or something.
Okay, I would not bank on him being the best quarterback on the field on Saturday,
CJ Stroud
but
was bad last week.
exactly, and if Penn State's getting pressure, then that can change everything, and then get this crowd involved. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, is supposed to be back for this one. I know this Penn State secondary is really good, but like Ohio State, like they just have dudes all over the place. So I don't know. It's going to be hard for them to win this one.